And that is why Michael Rubin, a former Pentagon official, has said that Munir's words expose a dangerous truth. Pakistan's nuclear arsenal isn't just unstable, it may soon be uncontainable. He's calling for Pakistan to be stripped of its major non-NATO ally status, labeled a state sponsor of terrorism. Now, what is all this and why is this happening? That needs to be kept in mind. Before we play out Michael Rubin, I want to say two things that needs to be now kept in mind, viewers. What Michael Rubin is saying is what New Delhi has been saying all along, something that the world needs to recognize. Here is a country who is the fountainhead of the instability in South Asia. And that is what Michael Rubin is now airing. Listen in.
Pakistan's threats on American soil are completely unacceptable. Pakistan is raising questions in many people's minds about whether it can fulfill the responsibilities of being a state or whether the time has come for it to end. In many ways, Pakistan's rhetoric, the field marshal's rhetoric, is reminiscent of what we've heard from the Islamic State and from Osama bin Laden. There's absolutely no reason anymore why the United States should consider Pakistan a major non-NATO ally.
All right, let's get in my colleague Shiv Arur for more on this, managing editor of NDTV, joining us live. Now, Shiv, this is something that India has all along been saying, that the instability in South Asia comes from Pakistan. Nobody knows who actually controls the nuclear switch in Pakistan. And this is what people like Mr. Rubin are actually saying.
You know, Osama in a suit, or more appropriately, Osama in a uniform, is perhaps the most appropriate phrase anyone could have thought of. And I'm not surprised that it's come from someone like Michael Rubin, who has spoken out against Pakistan before, Gaurie. But I think the concern that he has raised and the concern that you have raised is exactly right. The language being used by Asim Munir from American soil, talking about taking half the world down with him, if Pakistan is to come under attack, just 3 months after Operation Sindoor, in which their entire country was completely pinned down and paralyzed using non-nuclear conventional power, just tells you how insecure, volatile, and irresponsible Pakistan is. It also shows you how, the language of a suicide bomber, and I don't say this lightly, goes from the youngest cadet all the way up to a senior-most field marshal of the Pakistan army, when he talks about not destroying the enemy, but destroying half the world. So instability in the region, the fact that things continue to be volatile, the fact that India needs to continue to reiterate that Operation Sindoor is not over, it has only been paused, all flows from the fact that our neighbor, headed by a man like Asim Munir, who travels all across the world to be wined and dined by the United States, continues to be a major non-NATO ally, as Michael Rubin correctly said, of the United States, and still feels comfortable enough and confident enough to stand on US soil and issue dangerous nuclear threats with no US response whatsoever, tells you not only that is Pakistan the fountainhead of regional and global instability, but that he has powerful friends, and that India, walks a lonely road as far as navigating geopolitically what the next few days and weeks and months actually really mean. Remember, there are big meetings coming up that will, tectonically shift some of the other relations we have in the world right now. Trump and Putin, there are other meetings that are being planned as well. Yes. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, I don't think Osama in his suit is going to be reviewed or revived anytime soon.
All right, we leave it there. Shiv Arur, my colleague, decoding that for us in terms of the description, the impact, the perspective in terms of why this needs to now be handled carefully, in a calibrated manner by New Delhi. In fact, let's quickly now get in Brahma Chilani for more on this, and also the big questions that we are posing as always on India Global. Let's put that big questions out as well, and then we'll get Brahma to answer some of them. First and foremost, is Pakistan the fountainhead of the reason for instability in South Asia? That's the biggest question. Next up, the second question that we ask is why is Trump emboldening Asim Munir? There are these red carpet welcomes that are happening for Asim Munir. He wined and dined with Donald Trump about last month, and now once again, just because he throws a Nobel recommendation letter. Next question that we are asking is, will India now re-evaluate its no first use nuclear doctrine? We've been very clear, very responsible that we are not going to start this. It's only when we are attacked that we have our nuclear weapons to defend. Do we need to change that, re-evaluate that, especially in the wake of Asim Munir's rant? And the last question, Brahma, that I'm going to put out is that should US take control of the nuclear switch of Pakistan? Now, the command and control centers of Pakistan's nuclear arsenal is a matter of grave concern, huge instability, which is why America needs to step in. Let me start by asking you, Brahma, what do you think about Asim Munir's rant?
Dr. Rubin is right. General Munir is indeed a rabid Islamist. He has exposed himself again and again as an advocate of violent jihadism. And for him to make the kind of statements that he has made on American soil was not only just undiplomatic, but actually underscores the fact that Pakistan, under this guy, after all, he's the most powerful man in Pakistan. So Pakistan under this guy is headed toward even greater troubled times.
In terms of where this is headed from here on, India's options need to be calibrated. We also need to review our, no first use doctrine as far as the nuclear policy is concerned. And also we need to have a very clear assessment of how this is likely to impact our relationship with the US. After all, he's using American soil for these kind of rants.
You raised two very fundamental questions, Gaurie. On the first question, the Indian government declared that it achieved its objectives during Operation Sindoor, and that's the reason why it agreed to cease hostilities. But the developments that we are seeing since then suggest that Pakistan, and especially the Pakistan Army under Munir, feels even more emboldened. This suggests that what happened in Pahalgam actually might be repeated, and repeated in a bigger way. So we have to be on guard, because it's clear, especially given the American backing, which has become now so open, the American backing of Pakistan, that the Pakistan Army will seek to do some major mischief against India. The other thing that we have to keep in mind is that the US under Trump is acting in ways that erodes the civilian authority in Pakistan, while further emboldening the Pakistan Army and this newly minted Field Marshal Munir. By hosting him at the White House, Trump signaled, and in fact he said so, that Munir is the most powerful person. So by hosting him, he further undermined the civilian authority in Pakistan. Prime Minister Sharif's government is a weak government. It's backed by the military, but it's weak. Everybody knows that in Pakistan. But what Trump has done is to further weaken that government. And then to make matters worse, the US has now hosted Munir for the second time in less than 2 months. So the US might be emboldening Munir to stage a coup and get rid of this weak government in Islamabad. This certainly is not good for regional security, and certainly not good for Pakistan's own security.
All right, let's leave it there. Brahma Chilani joining us on India Global. Thanks much for speaking to me. Well, bottom line, viewers, as far as Asim Munir's rant is very clear. Well, he is Hindu-phobic, he's a rabid Islamist, and he's a man who has never won a war and is the second Field Marshal of Pakistan. He's done that himself, he promoted himself on his own, despite not winning any war whatsoever. Now, he is also becoming a cause of greater instability in South Asia. Pakistan's nuclear arsenal, anyway, is the fountainhead of the great tensions in South Asia, and Munir is building on that. Now, with Trump already laying the red carpet for him, is he now not only mainstreaming Munir, but also laying the foundation for Munir to be the next president? Already, Donald Trump has told the world that Shahbaz Sharif hardly exists. His government doesn't exist. It's anyways weak. But with him now choosing to dine and dine with Munir, is Sharif's government now, for all practical purposes, powerless and defunct? Remember, viewers, every time there is a backing of Pakistan by America, the military gets more emboldened. And Pakistani military, every time when it gets emboldened, it only has one ramifications, that is the security network in the entire region gets further affected. Well, we are shifting focus now to the other story that we're tracking on India Global. More than half of India's exports to the US are now under pressure. Starting the 7th of August, a sharp new US tariff hike kicked in, with 55% of Indian goods now being impacted. This is, remember, our largest trading partner where it has been impacted. Now, what does this mean? This has ramifications in terms of our overall trade outlook. The US is India's largest trading partner. The Trump administration has doubled tariffs to 50% on most Indian goods, citing India's continued purchase of Russian oil. It is one of the highest tariffs India has ever faced from the US. The Indian government has said the new duty will have a significant impact, and exporters are now raising concerns. The export organization, which is FIO, has said that the move is shocking. Sectors like textiles, marine products, leather and more are expected to take the biggest hit. Exporters are in fact warning the Indian government that goods could become about 30 to 35% less competitive. But this is only one side of it. The fact is that there are 55% of goods that will be impacted, which also means that 45% will not be impacted, which means that there is still a large chunk of Indian exports to the US which will not be impacted. And that needs to be kept in mind, that while there is a large trade exposure, it is not as significant, or is not a doomsday scenario that many people have been saying. No, it is none of that. 55% is a very large exposure, but it is still only 55%, and that needs to be kept in mind. The second important thing as far as our exposure to the US is concerned is that trade talks haven't ended. Those trade talks are going to continue, and they will take place at the end of this month. So India, which is of course bracing for some sort of an impact, knows that the exposure at best is about 55%. And secondly, also is prepared for talks to continue. And that is the most important aspect that needs to be highlighted, viewers. It's not doomsday scenario. It's nothing like, if these tariffs come into place, what happens to our trade relationship, what happens to our overall exports, none of that. That is the big headline that we need to keep in mind. The road ahead may be a little rocky, but it is not full of obstacles. That's the big thing that we are telling you right here on India Global. All right, on that note, a quick break. We return on the other side with more stories on India Global. Stay with us.
Rajasthan is history, culture, and much more. And I have been reporting on all things royal for more than 25 years.
The colors, the culture, and the complexities of the Northeast is different from the rest of the country. I have been bringing the Northeast closer to the capital for over 15 years.
Madhya Pradesh is the heart of India, and I have been capturing its every beat for over 10 years, covering the corridor.
When Tony passed, we wanted to celebrate him his way. All he ever spoke about was bite this, bite that. I'll never forget our first date. Huge grin on his face as he rode up on that big noisy thing. And that's exactly the way he'd want to be remembered.
At Co-op Funeral Care, we offer a choice of funerals including direct cremation. We're right by you when you need us. Search online, call us, or visit your local funeral home.
Summer's heating up with People's Postcode Lottery.
Oh my gosh!
In our September draws, you could win a share of £20.8 million.
I've just won the postcode lottery.
Oh,
Twice.
could a big summertime win land in your postcode?
Wow!
Sign up before midnight on the 21st of August. A share of £20.8 million could be yours, but only if your door is in the draw.
Hey, Sainsbury's. They're growing quicker than my budget. Any help?
Well, colleagues like Charlotte here are always lowering prices with Nectar and matching prices with Aldi, day and night. From strawberry season to spooky season. Through cold and rain
And tropical sunshine?
through tropical sunshine indeed. Because we're always matching and lowering prices. Sainsbury's, good food for all of us. Wow, they really did grow quickly.
I started this brand because I started being told no to my dreams.
So I didn't have any design experience. I didn't have any business experience, but I really had a sort of belief.
Running a business is really challenging, but I love it.
This is so wild that I actually, from a dream, started a business. We're Cheekbone Beauty.
This is Super Ceramics.
We're finished
We're Eastside Golf and we're powered by Shopify.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
You're watching India Global with me, Gaurie, Dwivedi. The other story that we're tracking on the show is Canada facing a growing security threat. And that continues as conservative leaders are now pushing to label the notorious Lawrence Bishnoi gang as a terrorist entity. Now, it's known for violent crimes, it's known for extortion, intimidation, especially targeting the South Asian community in British Columbia, Alberta, and Ontario areas. The gang's reach, of course, extends beyond borders. With demands intensifying from multiple provinces, Ottawa is now under ever-increasing pressure to act decisively, designating the Bishnoi gang as a terror organization. It would unlock new powers to disrupt their transnational criminal network. In fact, recently, remember, it was Cap's Cafe, which is Kapil Sharma's cafe in Canada, which was attacked by Lawrence Bishnoi's gang. And now with the news tightening around the gang in Canada, that is likely to have major ramifications for the South Asian community that has been impacted by this growing Lawrence Bishnoi gang. And the terror tag would also ensure that the organized violence and extortion rings that it runs is tapped. Turning attention now to the other big story on the show. Well, it's the meeting the world cannot stop talking about, the most anticipated meetup of the year. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin face to face this Friday in Alaska. On the table, well, a possible end to Europe's longest and most brutal war since Second World War, with Ukrainian territory on the line. The stakes couldn't have been higher, and yet Ukraine is not on the table, doesn't have a seat at the table. Well, it hasn't earned it, if you think from Trump's point of view. European leaders are also on the sidelines. Again, they're a footnote, hardly a play as far as Trump's playbook is concerned. Kiev is still waiting for confirmation, while headlines focus on who's in and who's left out. One nation is quietly shaping the conversation. One needs to keep in mind that Prime Minister Modi did hold talks both with Vladimir Putin as well as Zelensky, just going into the Alaska summit with the President Trump. Now, in fact, India is uniquely positioned to probably be the only country in the world that has lines of communication that are robust and up between both Russia and Ukraine. Even last year, when Prime Minister Modi had visited Russia, he followed that up with a visit to Ukraine. And now, while he spoke with Vladimir Putin on Friday, and there's also a confirmation that the Russian president will be in India soon, he also spoke with Ukrainian President in terms of what he feels and what India feels should be the path to be able to solve this, which is peacefully find a resolution. And he's also said, Prime Minister Modi has said that this is not an era of war. Now, while the West grapples with open diplomacy, India is playing the long game. Behind closed doors, you see New Delhi is trusted by both Moscow and Kiev and now acknowledged by Trump as a key player on Russian oil and economic influence. Meanwhile, for more on this, let's quickly now rope in we have a guest joining us on the broadcast to talk more on this. Maximilian Hess joins us to talk more on what this means in terms of the summit, the possible outcomes, and should we actually be tempering our expectations? And we'll get the big questions as well on our screens as well. But Mr. Hayes, in your assessment, how optimistic are you really in terms of this summit leading to some sort of breakthrough? I won't even use the word ceasefire, possible breakthrough in this long and grinding war.
Well, thank you for having me. I am not very hopeful that there will be a breakthrough. I think both the wider West's negotiating position and Trump's individual interests and what he hopes to extract from Russia are too far apart for Putin to agree anything meaningful towards. Yes, there is a personal attraction, a very strong one in that, from Donald Trump towards Vladimir Putin, but while his interests are very different from the wider West's, even his interests and what he wants Putin to concede on will be too hard to make a deal on, let alone what Ukraine wants a deal to be made on.
And in your sense, do you think there could be any potential concessions that the Russian president may look at? He's coming into the summit with significant military wins, a momentum in the last couple of weeks. Do you see any concessions being made?
No is the short answer. I mean,
deal-breaker.
diplomacy is always good and we should always welcome it, but Russia is not negotiating in good faith, and Putin sees that he has advantages on the battlefield right now. He believes that his economy can get through this storm relatively easily. I think he's wrong there, but he believes that. And so Vladimir Putin won't make concessions. And even if there is a deal, if Trump agrees to the kind of deal that Putin wants, then the world will become a far more dangerous place for the foreseeable future.
And I think that itself is a deal breaker, Mr. Hayes, because if there is no concession, then there's really no deal on the table. Even if Zelensky is not on the table, at the end of the day, there will be any possible breakthrough only and only if there are any concessions that can be made. You know, which also brings me to ask you the other aspect of this summit, which actually impacts New Delhi, it impacts India directly. The Russian oil sanctions that Donald Trump has come up with, everybody knows it's because the American president has been frustrated with the fact that there's not been a ceasefire. He's not been able to close a war, which he thought he would do in 24 hours. So we do get impacted directly with the outcome of the Alaska summit. One is that there could be an end to the war. Second is there could be a different perspective to the sanctions that Donald Trump has incorrectly put as far as India importing Russian oil is concerned. Your thoughts there?
It is, of course, a major impediment. Now, Vladimir Putin could try to agree a deal with Donald Trump on matters that he cares about, such as the future of the Arctic. That's why the summit is being held in Alaska, or the future of the natural gas industry. I don't think he has really much to offer Trump there, but he could try to make negotiations. But then to actually make some kind of agreement that Ukraine and Europe will accept is going to be far harder. Now, Ukraine and Europe will have real difficulties funding the war without U.S. supplies of military goods, but there is still quite a lot more they can do. The Europeans in particular have just been unwilling to do so on their own. But as we often see, the Europeans will make every mistake before they finally come around to the choice that they should have made in the beginning.
So let's leave it there. Mr. Maximilian Hess, who's the author of Economic War, Ukraine and the Global Conflict Between Russia and the West. Thank you so much for speaking to me on India Global View. As well as we wrap things up, let me quickly now tell you why is Alaska such an important place, and why exactly is Alaska really the host of this summit. First and foremost, this is 55 miles from Russian territory, the closest actually in terms of distance between America and Russia. And in fact, during the Ice Age, during the earlier time, Beringer Land Bridge actually connected US and Russia via Alaska. It also underscores, viewers, the geographic proximity between Russia and the US, and many would say potentially offers a semi-neutral midpoint for Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. And this is also the region, the Arctic Circle really is the new theater where both Russia and US pretty much face each other off, and which is why this region could be extremely important. And a bit of historical fact as we wrap things up, this was in fact sold by Alexander II, the Tsar Alexander II in 18th century to the US for $7.2 million in gold. Well, that's all the time we have on this edition of India Global. Well, viewers, thanks so much for watching.
This must be Kelly. What are you doing?
Yes, most of the time. But just be careful, because he always needs it when he sees me.
Good boy, Kelly.
Ducks.
Ducks.
Not hearing the whole conversation? Book a free hearing check with one of our experts.
Just sorted my guaranteed over 50 plan with Sun Life. There's even a cash payout. Nice one. It's given me the confidence to look after myself. I've started learning jiu-jitsu.
Come on!
Do you need a doctor? Oh, no. With Sun Life, there's no medical questions.
Search Sun Life Plan today and get a free gift card.
School's out for summer. At Tesco Mobile, our deals will help you make the most of it. It's time to make the flip to the new Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 7 FE with 12 gigs of data for just $34.99 a month with Club Card prices, saving you £324. And what's more, you'll collect Club Card points too. How you choose to spend them is up to you. It pays to be connected. Search Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
If you have cancer, you may feel overwhelmed with worries.
Will I lose my hair?
How bad will my side effects be?
How do I cope with waiting?
What happens now?
Whatever your cancer worries, Macmillan is here for you. Whether you're anxious about side effects, waiting for test results or appointments, or just need someone to listen, don't struggle alone. Whatever you need to ask, we're here for you 7 days a week. Call Macmillan for free now on 0808 258 8000.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gaurie Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
Welcome to Fault Lines with me, Gaurie Dwivedi. Now this week on the show, Beijing and Moscow flex at sea. Are we witnessing a new maritime alliance? And is Trump's America countering Moscow and Beijing? Next, as Trump claims wins, there is a Trump-Putin meeting that looms. We break down the battlefield advantage that Russia may potentially have and what's driving the war machinery of Russia. Next on the show, we tell you Israel's Gaza game plan that's changing, but can it really still win the war? And lastly, robo-dogs are patrolling real battlefields. We unpack how far along really is India in this game. But first up, the big story that we are telling you this week, which is about Russia and China. In the cold contested waters of the Sea of Japan, two nuclear armed powers are rehearsing the future of warfare below the surface. There are anti-submarine strikes, there are amphibious assault simulations, even submarine rescue, all played out just miles from US allies and critical sea lanes, all while US submarines quietly reposition in response. It's strategic messaging aimed at Washington, Tokyo, and far beyond. What really is happening and what were these drills all about? This report has all those details for you.
In Maritime Interaction 2025, Russian and Chinese warships turned the Sea of Japan into a strategic rehearsal stage. What started as quiet harbor activity exploded into a 5-day show of force, above, on, and beneath the waterline. 11 warships and submarines from both navies simulated high-stakes combat, from tracking enemy subs to gunning down amphibious assault ships, to deep-sea rescue ops that mirrored real-world emergencies. In a standout maneuver, a Russian IL-38 and a Chinese Y-8 aircraft located and destroyed a mock submarine in synchronized anti-submarine warfare. Meanwhile, amphibious landing ships were targeted in live-fire exercises. Below the waves, China's CNS Shihu deployed its LR-7 rescue sub to dock with a simulated sunken Russian sub, showcasing advanced emergency coordination. Russia's Volkhov and China's Great Wall 210 submarines swapped roles in joint rescue drills, signaling deeper operational trust and shared subsurface doctrine. But drills weren't confined to Russian waters. Planned destroyers and surveillance ships were sighted near Okinawa and the Philippine Sea, closely tailed by Japanese and US assets. And as Beijing and Moscow were gearing up to flex their naval muscles, US President Donald Trump ordered 2 American nuclear submarines into undisclosed appropriate regions, a powerful message in return. The Pacific is getting crowded. Bureau Report, NDTV World.
Viewers, we now tell you the changing dynamics as far as the Indo-Pacific is concerned. These drills have happened. What does this mean? Who has the edge? We tell you that. First up, there's now a dual command in terms of Russia and China leading these joint military operations. They've done this before. There is a messaging here, which is what we are talking about. Let's tell you now in terms of the edge as far as submarine is concerned. Next up, the drills show rising undersea warfare capabilities. Just how much in the Indo-Pacific will these submarine edge by either of the two sides really dictate the future conflict, and the nature of the outcome is something that we're going to decode for you in detail. Next up, provocation moves. Now, Russian and Chinese ships have approached Japanese waters deliberately. This isn't the first time. China has been doing this for the last 15 years. Provocation after provocation, and even during these drills that have happened, they are meant to send a message to at least half a dozen countries in that entire region, Japan being just one of them. Japan is also important because Japan is an ally of America. Next up, Japan has in fact reacted. Tokyo tracks and shadows advancing fleets. Now, this is something that's very important for Japan to do. It has been doing so for a while, and every time any enemy ship or any foreign entity enters Japanese waters, then there is a SOP that kicks in, and that SOP is likely to be tested more going forward after the drills and the provocation that Russia and China are really sending out. Next up, the allies have responded. US, UK, Japan, South Korea, they are set to launch their counter naval drills. Indo-Pacific is now the epicenter of any potential conflict that will take place in waters. The maritime conflict will happen in Indo-Pacific, which is why you have US and its allies set to react to this, react to the provocative drills that Russia and China put out. And lastly, waters that are contested, Indo-Pacific seas no longer open. We've been saying that now. We've heard that unclosed verdict that came out, which granted Scarborough Shoal to Philippines. All that was completely rejected by China, and nobody could do a thing, which is why these drills are meant to send out a message, viewers. All right, as far as the blinkers off is concerned in this, Russia and China's joint naval drills in the Sea of Japan are no small fish territory. Story, viewers. Beneath the surface, these two powerhouses are sending a message that's loud and clear, that Indo-Pacific is their new chessboard, and they're moving pawns with deadly precision. It's a rehearsal for any potential real conflict. China has been preparing this now for almost a decade, and all its countries, there are about a dozen odd countries that share its naval boundaries with China, all of them, that includes most of ASEAN, are aware of that. Now, this rehearsal is played out in the shadow of US allies in vital shipping lanes. About 40% of the world's cargo actually goes via these contested waters. These are contested because China claims and lays claim over all of it. And now with Russia and China conducting those drills, the timing says it all. Russia and China are testing Washington's resolve. When Moscow and Beijing sink their teeth into joint subsurface doctrine, it signals a deepening partnership that could tip the scales in these contested waters. Meanwhile, American response, quietly but firmly deploying nuclear submarines to undisclosed waters, is a reminder that the games are far from over. Donald Trump may think that he's only going to look inward-looking and going to retreat from all other potential conflicts or other important areas in the world. He cannot do so. His machinery knows that he cannot do so. The Pacific, which was once a vast and open area, is now fast becoming a crowded, tense arena where every move counts. Tokyo's watchful eyes and allies' naval counter drills show that no one is willing to let sleeping dogs lie. The Indo-Pacific is a powder keg, and these drills are the sparks that are flying in a rapidly shifting balance of power. In the end, the question isn't just who controls the seas, but who controls the narrative of peace or provokes the next wave of conflict. The other story that we are tracking on the show, viewers, well, it is about the summit that will take place soon, which is the ICE summit between President Putin and US President Donald Trump. There's an expectation that 15th of August could potentially mean the end as far as the Russia-Ukraine conflict is concerned. It's been going on since 3.5 years. It started in February 2022. Donald Trump said that he's going to end it in 24 hours. That hasn't happened. But is this potentially the best possible option to end the war? We tell you. But first up, let's get you details in terms of what is the road to that ICE summit. Let's get you that timeline, viewers, and then we talk about why this is going to be extremely important. First up, February 12th, Trump and Putin hold their first call this term. Now, all of this is this year. If I go back in time to 2022, then we're talking about a whole different show altogether, viewers. This is February 12th, 2025, in the last couple of weeks. Let's move ahead and tell you in terms of February 18 what happened. That is when Marco Rubio and his counterpart, Sergei Lavrov,